Hey everyone, we're still in the Build a Minecraft Avatar world. Just wanted to do a quick tutorial whilst I was here to just do flow. I do things in like batches, and this is a batch. So I released a line tool. You can check out that video a couple of videos ago. It just says line tool. In that one I show how to make lines with the tool that I made, but I just wanted to show you an alternative if you wanted to do it yourself using a couple of components. Let's go over them now. The component is the segment mesh. We're also going to cover the slot segment mesh, but we'll start with the segment mesh just to kind of show you both of them. So to start with, I'm going to need a cube. We'll make it kind of small, and then we'll grab another one, and we're going to inspect both and put them to one side. Next, we're also going to create an empty object. This creates an empty object in the scene with nothing inside it that you can take a look at. And so we're going to attach a component here. We're going to go to Assets, Procedural Meshes, and then we're going to do Segment Mesh. When you use a procedural mesh, you can check out some other videos for more procedural meshes, but when you use a procedural mesh, you also need to add a rendering mesh renderer. Here it is. And then you just drag the mesh type into your mesh property of the mesh renderer, and you'll get an actual list there. There's also a need for a material here. You can just hit add and then start adding materials in. Let's get the segment mesh running before we do that though. So here you'll see that the segment mesh takes a point A, point B, slot A, slot B. Those are the control the sort of overall structure of a segment mesh. We're going to use these slot variables here, slot A, slot B. So if I take this box and I put it in slot A, this box and put it in slot B, you'll now see that we've got, let's get rid of some gizmos, that we've got a line that connects both of them. You'll also see that the line is checkerboard, and that's because we haven't dropped in that material. So we can go ahead and, actually I need that tool back, come here. And we can create material with create new, object, oops, materials, we'll go flatlet toon, and then we're going to change the color to be red, drop this in the hole, and now we've got the red line between them. And these all work across any distance, they're just linked together like that. You'll see it's linking from the center of the object as well to the center of the other object. You can stack these up together by linking them sequentially to kind of form like a kind of web or network or grid. That uses makes an interesting effect. Here on the radius, you can change the radius up a little bit. 0.1, it's a nice big one. If you go to 1, it's going to be huge. Yep, that's in my eyes. Great. There we go. You can also change the shading from smooth to flat sides, flat segments, flat, etc. That will change what it looks like when you get up close, or when you have a larger radius. You might see that a bit more prominently. At smaller radiuses you won't. So here at 0.1, flat, smooth, flat sides, flat segments, etc. You'll see it go through. There's also a bake mesh option. Bake mesh will turn it into a static mesh from a procedural mesh. If you don't want to use the slot option, you can also use coordinates. So here, we need to talk about where the a mesh originates from, and it always originates from where the empty object is. So you can see here that it comes from this point, and if I drop this back down to a radius of 0, 1, say we wanted to go have a mesh that points straight up, we would just set to point B to be, let's say 1 on the Y, and you see we now got a straight line going up, and it starts from here. And so point A just needs to change from nothing because it starts at the origin point. If you wanted to point up and to the side, we can do a unit in this direction. Oh no, wrong one. We need to do X. Where are we? X, there it is. And then negative X. There we go, and now we're pointing that way, and then you can do a combination of all the others. This mesh is super useful if you want to do a line between 2 points, you want to do some sort of geometric line that's going anywhere. There are a couple of downsides in that it doesn't have a collider. If you want to add a collider to it, you need to position it manually because it changes a lot, especially with the stretching that we had with these 2 cubes. That's the segment mesh. There is also the slot segment mesh, and I say this just in case you find it when you go through. I always recommend using the segment mesh, but if you look at the slot segment mesh, you will see that there is a little bit less options. There's just the point A and point B, and again, if we assign these, we drag the mesh into the mesh renderer, you'll see we've got the same effect again, but there's less options in that you can't change the shading, and you also can't specify points manually. Therefore, I recommend you use the segment mesh. I question why the slot segment mesh exists. It sounds like those two could be collapsed together, but that's a question for the Neos team, not for me. Hope that's helpful. That's the slot segment mesh. You can create some sort of super cool visuals here. Just bear in mind that you can't select them that easily. They've got no colliders, etc. So you'll have to go in and delete them if you want to get rid of them. I'll see you next time for another video.